Luigi Mangione, the accused killer of healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is asking for his high-profile state murder trial to be live-streamed. In a letter asking for unprecedented access to the court proceedings, the defense claims that Mangione's rights are being violated, writing, quote, criminal defendants have a Sixth Amendment right to a fully public, open, and unbiased trial. This means that every member of the public and the press who wishes to see the Mangione trial should be permitted to do so. A criminal defendant's essential right to a fully public trial covered by all news reporters seeking to do so is so basic to the fair administration of justice. Now, there's just one major problem. New York generally prohibits cameras during criminal trials, saying that it protects a defendant's right to a fair trial and avoids a spectacle, something that Mangione seems to be craving. Among the demands Mangione makes is this: asking for a list of journalists covering jury selection as well as the trial, an explanation of the criteria used for those selections and what efforts were made to secure overflow space, that the trial be broadcast live, and most brazenly, an explanation of why it would not be. The prosecution responded saying, quote, the defense's baseless allegations appears to be nothing more than an attempt to spread misinformation about the case and delegitimize the proceedings. Harris, the sad part of all of this is I think Mangione knows that a sick, dark corner of the population is on his side. And we have seen that in polling. Generation Lab, 48% of young people say the killing was somewhat justified. Emerson, 41% of young voters found the killing to be acceptable. Those are alarming polls we've covered. But I think that's who he's speaking to with this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think you're right. And I also think that there is some sort of a, maybe streaming. I don't want to call any companies out, but we all know that Netflix is kind of the boss on this because of what we saw with Murdaugh and some of the stuff that you've covered, Martha. I mean, you get a series out of this, and I'm sure somebody benefits from it. But he's been public about this from the beginning, if you think about it. The crime that he's accused of happened in brazen daylight. He is accused of taking out the CEO of UnitedHealthCare on the streets of Manhattan. He was walking around getting picked up by every camera as the suspect, and shows up in a McDonald's. I mean, I don't think that this guy is really seeking ever to hide. I think that part of who he at least shows us he is somebody who doesn't chase fame necessarily, but chases spotlight, which is different because spotlight can sometimes give you influence. And I don't know what his goals are, but he claims, or at least people do on his behalf, his attorneys, that perhaps this happened potentially because of his feelings toward the healthcare industry, so on and so forth, from what he has said as a victim of severe pain and surgery that didn't go right or whatever the case may be. So maybe he feels in some way justified in being a very public figure, but I don't think he's ever tried to really hide.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And Emily, the demands just seem so brazen. He demands a list of 6 journalists, another one of 68 journalists, and it's almost like he thinks he's a celebrity and he's demanding things for his green room. I mean, it is. I don't mean to be infantile in suggesting that and making that comparison, but the demands are outrageous.
Well, look, this is a reflection, too, of defense counsel that is acceding to clearly him, yes, thinking of himself as some kind of evil celebrity. I find this nauseating, and I want everyone to understand that this is a perfect illustration of the tool that can become the court of public opinion. And that is why we saw, for example, or what we are seeing now, for example, in Utah, with the alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk, the refusal to even engage with the court of public opinion. They are filing motion after motion to please stop the cameras, don't show me at all, let no journalists come in, do not print anything, right? They are terrified of the court of public opinion, writ large, I guess, knowing or saying that he is guilty, right? Overwhelming evidence there. Here we have clearly, I would say, an egomaniac, maybe a narcissist, who loves this attention. And all that matters, by the way, to prosecution is those members in the jury panel. So prosecution will argue either way. Here in New York, the presumption is that media exposure provides a non-fair trial. So they're going to say, look, let's keep this, a sanctity of the courtroom. We don't need that noise. There in Utah, they say it's in the public's interest to see the record, right? So you see where every state's fall in line. But here they're going to say, look, this is just simply feeding this guy's ego. Because at the end of the day, it does only matter what the jurors think. So why do we care about public of court opinion? Because of Netflix revenue. Because is he going to get anything? Despite, yes, there are laws
but his family can.
Laws against benefiting from your crimes financially. We know this. But there are people getting married to him. There are people getting married to his avatar. He has throngs of protesters that think that they are in a relationship. So this guy wants his face on every TV screen across the country. And I hope the judge here says, you know what, not on my watch.
That is 100% right. I mean, I think about the young women out there fawning over him. We've seen that outside the courtroom, Martha.
Yeah, apparently the only person that he didn't want to see his face was Brian Thompson.
Yeah.
Because he snuck up from
Great
him
point.
from behind and shot him in the back, allegedly. This trial is not underway yet. So, I mean, he allegedly shot this man in cold blood from behind with a hood, like, over his face. That is the charge that is against him here. So suddenly now, because of all this attention and because of the culture that we live in, which you guys have pointed out, he wants to call the shots. He thinks he's a big shot. He thinks he gets to decide which reporters can be in the room. His side is very crafty, very high-powered attorneys that are representing him. And, you know, they felt that there was a list of approved reporters who would get to be in the courtroom and potentially in the overflow room. But their side is saying, no, these are the people who cover the New York court system. They're on this list because they are reporters who cover this beat, and that's why they get to be here. So I think it's really, and you know, I'm thinking about Murdoch as well, which you brought up, Harris. He's getting a new trial. So if you can secure the interest and you can get these often very one-sided presentations of what happened in your trial, it opens the door for potentially, you know, cracking that door open. Now, Murdoch, it's not the murders that are being retried. It is the murders that are being retried, but he is going to be put away for his financial crimes for the rest of his life. But, you know, it did crack that door open. Yeah. And documentaries are not in many ways what they used to be. They now seem to have an angle, not just sort of a, you know, this side says this and that side says that. What is the truth? Where does the truth lie?
Well, they're docudramas
for you. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm also thinking of something else we talked about here on the couch, and that's Brian Koberger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one.
And
how that's going to go.
Lost in all of this, Brian Thompson, to your point, the man who he didn't want to look into his face, a father of two, a husband, ascended from modest roots. By all accounts, people who worked with him loved this man, and he is lost in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this guy is going to try to paint himself as an anti-establishment. Like, I mean, that's where he's getting this fuel is like, you know, you talk about a system that, like, you know, so many people feel like they have been wronged by. And now that's why you got 40% thinking that he's, you know, that he's going to be painted as some hero. And that's what he's trying to do. He's riding off that he's on the side of right and he's going to be this anti-establishment representation of what to do. But this is where it gets very dangerous. Right? I mean, first off, this guy is a complete coward. Like anybody that goes up and shoots an unarmed person, I mean, any of this. I mean, this guy is nothing more than dirt. He wants to show his face when he's safe and protected by other people, right? But he didn't. You know, it's absolutely insane. But this is the problem. Like, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but we've got some attorneys here. But our system, our judicial system, has become on this, like, it has been weaponized by the criminals. Like, the criminals have more rights than the very people that these laws were there to protect people, these criminals from, right? And the criminals have found a way to wrap this up. They found a way to not only make this entertainment, because look at all these I mean, literally it's turned into this whole emotional thing that people are charged with. But it's like, why do we always feel like that the bad guys have got more rights and they are defended and protected more than the very people that need the protection with these laws? And so I just worry about how this is portrayed. Like how, I mean, we can't even say that he did it, right? We watched it on camera. This guy walked up and shot this guy in the back of the head, right? Like, it's absolutely absurd. And I just think that we've got to call it what it is, because if not, depending on how this is portrayed, you start weaponizing other people and empowering other people to do the same thing. That when they don't get what they want or they feel like they were wrong, that I'm going to grab a gun and I'm going.
We're already there. We're in assassination culture land right now.
Yeah.
Like people don't agree, and that's how some of them are solving their problems. No, it's so true what you say.
Well, we will continue to follow it as jury selection looks to happen next month. All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.